Hey, what's up, guys? SKNOVA here. As you can see, new setup. I got a webcam, I got a green screen behind me. I'm actually recording this video again because you can see on the little edge right here, my green screen cut off, so you can kind of see a little bit of whatever's behind that, and it ruined the whole effect. So I'm going to re-record this. But talking about Faction Wars guide. We've gotten to the point now. The last 2 days have been pretty tough. We've passed stage 7. We're going stages 8 to 11 in some of the factions now, and the complaints are coming out that it's too hard. People aren't liking it. I totally get that. This is really designed to be endgame content, to be honest, and the rewards are pretty small for the amount of effort it takes to progress in this. Totally get that. But the difference between someone who has 6-star glyphs on all their speed gear in the next tier of whatever Arena Platinum or Master or whatever the next Arena tier is called again, is going to be significant for the top tier players. All right, so we have a lot of content out there. There's tons of stuff to do in this game. More time can be spent in dungeons and everything else than you'd ever want to. And glyphs is just sort of a little bit of the icing on top of the cake. I guess what I'm getting at is don't feel like you have to partake in faction wars fully and progress in all of the factions really quickly, because less than the top 5% of people out there are probably going to be able to. I feel like I'm going to get stuck on a few of these factions pretty soon, and I have I think a fairly geared account, and I've only missed 4 stars, potentially 2 once I redo some of the ones on Barbarian Crypt over here. So I've pretty much done everything. I'll show the videos of my faction runs from tonight. I did it on Twitch, Sacred Order, and Oregon Tribe. But even with my account, I know I'm going to get stuck, and this is going to be very tough. And I'm going to have to figure out how to progress on some of the factions, even the ones that are significantly geared. So what I ended up doing is I made a little bit of a guide and help people sort of prioritize where to spend their time, energy, gems, resources in faction wars. And it's actually the same spreadsheet that I used for my legendary ranking. If you want to go back and take a look at that, I made this little faction wars guide, and I also have a page on here which you can copy for your own use in terms of just to help you keep an idea. If I make it a little smaller here, has all of the different, probably can't read it, has all of the different factions, the characters that I'm currently using for them, maybe some of the options that I currently have, not the ones that I want, but the ones that I have, and sort of where they're at in terms of what item level they are, what level they are if they're ascended, a little bit of information about their items, which I still have to put in, whether I put any masteries on them, whether they have a few skill books, or if I think I should put some in. That kind of information helps me to decide where to place my time and effort. But what was really important is this guide that I made down here, which I think will help people maybe reconsider some things. I'll give you my reasoning about why I think people should prioritize it this way. So the first thing you have to consider is which factions you should level. In my opinion, don't level all the factions. Pick and choose the ones that you think you can progress the furthest in and work on those. You only need a couple, because realistically the rewards from this are going to be pretty small. You want to be able to 3-star stuff, yes, because the rewards from that are pretty good. You want the good glyphs, yes, but what you don't want is to have 12 factions with mediocre teams that you've tried to all get to level 50. None of them can clear stage 11, so you get stuck with 1 and 2-star glyphs, maybe the occasional 3 and 4, and you're not going to progress very far in this, and it's going to be very frustrating, right? Because your low level is going to die. That can be pretty common. So what I think you should do, in my opinion, open for debate, choose the factions that hey, you know what, I have a top tier legendary. This is a legendary that I'm probably going to use in another element of the game, like clan boss or arena or dungeons. Anyways, I might as well level them up, gear them up, make them good. It's another reason to do that is because it'll also be good for faction wars. And hey, maybe I have a good pairing with 2 or 3 of them. 2 or 3 really good level 60s is probably all you need to progress up to and maybe including stage 14, which we have not seen yet. Choosing that is most efficient for your energy resources, rather than trying to level those rares that you haven't ever leveled before, or those epics that have been sitting in your vault at level 1 that have no gear, no masteries, no skills, and it's going to take a lot of effort to get them to the point where the increase they add to your team is already very small. So basically invest in the stuff that you already have going on, and when you decide to get to that point, then start leveling the other ones. So I have here, prioritize your best faction first. Makes sense. If you have top tier legendaries and epics in that faction already, and you're in the process of leveling them, get them to 60, get masteries, all those things will make them very good. Now, in my opinion, it'll be better to farm higher level stages with 1 or 2 factions, for example, than to be able to do mediocre and only get to stage 8 in all of them, right? So if you take the time and effort to spread and try to keep up with all the factions, you're not going to progress as far or get as good items as you could just progressing on those 1 or 2 that you really could do well at. You get the glyphs, any glyph can drop, I think, from any stage. The star power of each glyph will increase the higher you go. So what you really want to be able to do is to get to higher levels. It's going to be extremely hard to get to the stage 21 with all of your factions. It just won't happen. So if you can do it in 1 or 2, great. Focus on that first, and then start going backwards and working on the factions that you can bump up as close to that as possible. So better to focus on one than all of them. Yes, you're going to miss a few days where you don't get to do much for the faction crypt, or the crypt faction war stuff. No problem, not a big deal. Don't overinvest in heroes that won't be permanent. Up along the same lines, for those like medium level players where you say you have a team of 60s and you have a couple 40s in there, and you say, oh, you know what? I know I probably want to replace these level 40s, but they're holding me back. I'm not 3-starring the level because those level 40s are dying. What I would say is, you can sure, if you want to take them to 50, sure, but don't overinvest in any heroes. Don't start mastering them up for things that you're only, 1, using them for faction wars, and 2, will likely be replaced if you get a better epic or legendary for your team. So look at your team, you have your top 5 characters, your top 2 are legendary, those are keepers, you have 1 good epic, and you have these other 2 that are kind of straggling behind. Maybe level the best of those 2 up to level 40 or 50, and then the other one up to 40 or 50, and then don't overinvest after that. I mean, if you can't progress too far, just wait. There's probably another faction that you can probably also level up. So there's sort of a balance there, not to jump around between factions, but don't waste energy on characters that aren't overall to your account that useful. If they're only really good in faction wars and nowhere else, that's your lowest priority. Let's put it that way. My whole reasoning for this, like 6-starring is the most expensive thing you can probably do in this game time-wise. It requires the most number of effort to level 5-star food characters that you're going to feed to your level 50 character, and then you have to level that character back up from 1 to 60, and that's a ton of energy. I can't remember the exact number, but lots of energy. You don't want to have to do that for characters that you're going to throw away, that you're going to use for faction wars once a week, for the 2 or 3 or 4 dungeons that we can run per week, given our current number of keys. That's a very, very small amount of use out of these faction war characters. So don't over invest, and definitely don't 6-star characters that you can't use elsewhere until you already have a team of 50 or 60 6-stars, and then these are just the final ones. At that point, go for it. And last thing I kind of already talked about is better to progress further and have your 3 level 60 awesome characters and your 2 that die, and you're only getting 1 star per stage. You still get the same reward at the end, which will make your team overall better. You won't get the rewards as fast, but those will come in time, right? So in order to get to the top tier where you're getting legendaries, you're going to need to be in the stage 17 to 21 on pretty much all of the factions, or at least 14 plus, which is probably going to require level 50 plus characters for all the factions, which is going to take a while. It's not something to do overnight. I've been playing since January. I am getting closer to that, but I still have a ways to go as well. So that's how you choose which factions to work on. Now, within the faction, what are your priorities? Actually, I don't even know if you guys can read this. I should make it bigger. This spreadsheet will be, there'll be a link to it. It's on Google Sheets. Everyone has access to it. You can go through and peek through it. I would love to discuss this with people because I spent some time strategizing and thinking about this, and you guys can tell me what you think. So what do you choose a faction, say it is going to be Sacred Order, because there's tons of heroes in there. You got a couple legendaries, you have good epics. Now you have to choose what to level within that. Obviously, you choose the best 5 you have. If you don't have a healer, not a big deal. You're going to require more lifesteal gear, far more Dragon 20. It's okay to not have heals in certain cases where you have more CC type abilities. So there's actually an interesting point on gear that I did put in here. If you have a low level 40 or 50 character with an AoE type ability, consider, I guess, what if they're a low level character? They're more likely to get attacked by the other team. So frost gear is actually pretty good in that case. They're kind of tanking with frost gear. If it's even an attack type character, you may want to consider putting definitely defensive type accessories on them, because they're going to need those defensive stats. They are going to be targeted, they're going to be attacked a lot, they're probably going to die, they're probably not going to do much damage to begin with, so you might as well make them tanky enough. Put some frost gear so at least they can CC someone. It's a little fun tip that will definitely help out. Now, if you have other characters that have AoE type abilities, again, those are the ones you want to use the stun, daze, provoke, taunt, or provoke/taunt type sets on, because potentially they can CC all these other, there's 6 minion stages and 1 boss stage per crypt, per times 7 or times 3. Now you're going to have tons of minions. Those minions hit really hard as well. If you can CC some of them, it makes your task that much easier. So all this gear that previously was being sold off because no one wanted it and didn't do anything, it was more arena type gear, is super useful now. So unfortunately, if you sold all your good gear, you're going to start farming it again. And if you farm it, now you have a place for it. So consider that, especially on low level characters, because all you need to do is give them a bunch of accuracy. And the accuracy requirements are not that high. And you can put this type of gear on them and they can contribute to the team, because they're not going to be doing damage. They're going to get targeted. They're probably going to die. They might as well CC something while doing that, right? So that's where these different gear sets will be extremely useful. Another thing that could be arguable, I think it's worth it to put the top, 3, even 4 tiers of masteries on them. That's the, the regular common scrolls and the green scrolls. Don't go into the divine levels until, well, you obviously have to be level 60 to get War Master or Hell Smasher or Giant Slayer. If you are level 60, definitely consider this. The power increase you get from those abilities can be huge. Now, we don't know how the boss is going to scale, but for all the minion stages, Hell Smasher and the crit damage skills are probably going to be better than War Master and Giant Slayer. Could be arguable, but I think you'll do more damage overall with those skills. Now, on the boss, on the other hand, most likely the 14 and 21 stage bosses are going to be tough. They're going to have a decent amount of health. So at that point, the Giant Slayer War Master ability probably becomes better. So you're going to have to make maybe a choice there. The other thing that people should definitely start looking at, this is not the clan boss. The support tree itself has a lot of like turn meter boosts and extra accuracy and those kind of things. Not going to be as useful as the counterattack abilities and the stun removal and the extra reduced damage from AoE that you get from the defensive tree. So the defense, these characters, defense mastery tree actually kind of probably wins out over support in a lot more cases. So that's also very interesting. Defense was always more of a arena focused type mastery tree, and the Faction Wars is kind of arena-esque type of content, so it works out well. There's a little tip there. The rest is pretty self-explanatory. Get the characters 50, ascend them. Ascending is huge, especially if you have percent gear, because the ascend increases your base stats. Also gives you a neck item when you ascend to 5 stars. Definitely do that. And then increase it, basically do everything you can before you end up 6-starring the character, which is the very last thing you want to do. The other thing is leveling items from 1 to 12 is probably about a third the cost as it is to go, or maybe a quarter of the cost as it is to go from 12 to 16. So level your gear to 12. Don't worry about going to 16 unless it's really, really good gear. You're going to need a ton more gear now than ever before, so don't blow all your silver on crappy item pieces. That being said, you're going to need to spread it out over lots of places. It can be cheaper to do this a couple times where you swap gear pieces. But as you get into 6-star gear with 100k per time, it's going to get very costly. It's actually relatively challenging to farm up 600,000 silver times 5 every day. So 3 million silver a day, not something you want to have to farm and swap on a regular basis. So you're going to need to pick and choose your gear wisely. You're going to have people with crappier gear than others. You might have a couple, like a banner or something like that you want to swap around between people. Sure, but it's going to take a ton of gear and a ton of silver and a ton of time. So pace yourself. That's all we're going to get at. And of course, once you get to 6-star, ascend right away so you can put on the banner. And then the very last step. Now, you can skill tome your character earlier than this, of course, and the skill tomes do help. The abilities you want to use it on are obviously the CC type abilities that have a higher chance of landing if you skill them up. But again, skill tomes are very limited, other than maybe rare tomes if you've been farming clan boss for a long time, so use them extremely wisely. Whew. I put a little reasoning down there. You can read it and go through yourself. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the model that I'm going with. My faction that I'm working on right now is the Bannerlords, because I have a terrible Bannerlords team, and I follow my own guide, basically. So I can bring that screen up again. So if you look at my team, my Bannerlord team, it's right here. Notice none of them have Masteries, so I'm like, well, I'll just give them the first couple of tiers of Masteries, because that's probably the simplest thing to do right now. There's a champion leveling event tomorrow, so I might actually 6-star one of them. I'm at that point where I'm willing to blow food on characters I only use for faction wars. Might be Rowan, it might be Oathbound. But you can see I started to get the first couple tiers of Masteries, and notice I also used the defense tree, even though they have some skills that are probably good to have extra accuracy for. The defense tree with the counterattack can be really, really good. So this ability with extra AoE reduction is good. And what you really want is retribution and deterrence down here, because the boss there's a freeze boss, there's a stun boss. I don't think there's a sleep boss, but you're going to get some of these stats put on your characters, and you also have an ability to potentially remove a random debuff when you take a bunch of damage, which can be the stun debuff. At least it happens on the clan boss occasionally. Those are really good, and you can get those plus your Hell Smasher or your Flawless Execution, should you wish to get those. So Masteries are also very interesting, and those are super powerful. So, limited counterattack with lifesteal gear might be the difference on those higher stages. Who knows? So I have a bunch of my 50s in here. You can see I've already followed my guide. I've ascended them. Now I'm working on Masteries, maybe a little bit out of order, but basic idea. My other Skinwalker guys down here, I have to level them up, but they are fully ascended because we want those neck pieces whenever possible. And I made my lower level characters probably a little bit tankier. I unfortunately sold a lot of my freeze or frost gear, so otherwise I'd be using that, but that's how I roll. So let's put a little bit of footage up here so you can kind of see it in action. I don't think it's super exciting for the ones I overpowered the other team on, but I'll kind of give you an idea on the composition and how that works. Before I go, one other really important thing, if you've held down to this long, hopefully I haven't bored you guys to death, but this is actually super important, and it's in this Faction Wars guide already. But up here, one thing that I don't know if everyone noticed, I mean a lot of people have, it's right blatantly in front there, but if you look at any of the factions, we'll just go to Organ Tribe, the boss has a certain color per stage. And those colors correspond to the abilities. At least it's been working so far. So what you will find, go back over here, bring up this list. There's 5 bosses: green, blue, yellow, purple, red. I put them in the order that I think is most difficult, with green being the easiest, red being the hardest. And also down the spreadsheet, I started to list the ones I can see, since I forgot to do this until yesterday, and what their colors will be. So as you can see, with red being the toughest, I think Lizardmen will have a hard time with it. Just to go over this quickly, because this video is getting pretty long, as my usual videos are. Green's easiest because poison and HP burn typically aren't going to be what causes all the damage to you. It's the main one-hit attacks, and the attacks are really annoying. So you want the boss to attack as few times as possible, and you want the stupid minions, which also have things like provoke and defense down and freeze and annoying CC type abilities too. You want to deal with that as soon as possible. The poison and the HP burn, while pretty annoying, aren't necessarily going to be the big killers compared to the attacks. So, and can be easily dealt with if you have a debuffer, which are hard to come by. But there is options, or you can just heal. So pretty much everyone with a continuous heal will negate the poison. You'll heal up a little bit, you'll take the poison damage, you won't be dead. So green, not that it's easy, just that it's easier to deal with than some of the other abilities. So blue and yellow, I think, could go either way in terms of difficulty level, but because blue has an AoE with a 40% chance, which is like 2 out of 5 on average will get hit with fear, and the yellow boss it'll attack 2 hit enemies and they will get provoked. So it'll definitely CC 2. This might CC 2, it might CC 0, it might CC all 5. A little bit more random, but fear is also not as bad because you can still potentially use your ability. Provoke isn't terrible either because at least you're attacking, you're just only using your A1. So it kind of both potentially use up a turn. Just fear is a little bit less of a use up, I guess, than... Well, that's not true. Fear is pretty terrible. They're both terrible. All of them are terrible. We'll make them equal. The reason blue boss is really ranked a little bit easier is his A2 and A3 synergize, but are easy to deal with because a lot of times you won't be AoEing down all of the heroes. You're probably not going to be doing them on auto until you overgear them. So really, just don't kill both minions when he's blue, and then he won't have the block damage buff from his A3, or wait till he uses this ability because he will use it at some point, even with 2 allies up, from what I've seen, and waste the ability and then burn the minions down. So there's ways of working around it, which makes that pretty easy too. Maybe easier than green, depending on how you look at it, but the A1 with the fear is pretty annoying. Yellow boss, also annoying A1, maybe not as bad, has a AoE true fear, which is also pretty annoying, but what also makes this annoying is you have to hit the boss to do damage, so likely you're going to get frozen. So it almost guarantees at some point your characters are probably going to be CC'd out of the turn. Your AoE characters as well, also super annoying because they're always going to hit, so they always have a chance of getting frozen. And there is no way of resisting it, so it just happens. Kind of like Sir Nicholas's A1, where he hits you and it's a low chance of happening, but it's just guaranteed to happen. So, and as we go down here, they get more annoying. Purple boss also has the fear debuff on AoE, but the problem with the purple boss is if you have a team that has buffs, which most teams probably run, like attack up or defense up or anything like that, even counterattack, this boss will steal the abilities, give them to himself. If your team has a bunch of debuffs like decreased defense and poisons and HP burns and all that kind of stuff, which most teams do have, he is going to take those buffs and put them all back on all your characters. So there's a lot of buff transfer going on. Again, you can kind of work on it a little bit because of the you can wait till he has it on cooldown and then put all your buffs up. You can kind of control it a little bit, but sometimes you can't. Like you're going to put poisons on him, he's going to put the 6 poisons you have on him back on you. The other annoying thing is the A3, which you have to work around, because if you take him down really low and he swaps HP and he goes back up to full health, it is terrible. So basically what this means is you have to slowly not debuff him on the first round, so he uses A2, not do a ton of damage to him, which isn't too hard not to do, I guess, but he'll use his A3 early on. Once his A3 is on cooldown, which is a super long cooldown, then you go and burn the boss. So not super terrible to deal with, but the buff transfer can be super annoying. Red boss is the best, hardest, save for last boss. Now the reason the red boss is so hard are mostly the passive ability. As you do damage to the boss, he gains turn meter, meaning that no matter what, he's going to probably out-turn your team, unless you have a ton of turn meter reduction on every character. So when I did the red boss, it would attack him, it would do, say, 30 or 40% of his health. I'd only get 1 character turn in per round, and the boss was constantly going in. And then the boss gets the A2 ability, which basically CCs all 5 of your characters to some extent. You got True Fear on one and Stun on the other 4. I'm assuming Resistance will reduce this because I think I did have some characters not take the stun, but having even 3 out of 4 of your characters stunned and lose a whole turn is super annoying, especially on top of the fact that when you attack them, he gets another bonus turn. So the boss gets a ton of turns. Maybe the saving grace is he only has a single target ability, but it also ignores your defense, so it hits really hard. So the more turns he gets, most likely he's going to one-shot one person at a time, and if you lose 1 or 2 of your key people in Faction Wars, you're probably going to lose. So because of that, there's so many combos that can go horribly wrong. Red Crypt Boss, super annoying. There you go. Now we should get the gameplay footage. Actually should have done this first. This is very important information. Helps you plan ahead. If I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, so I know Sacred Order at level 14 is purple and 21 is blue. So maybe if it's the blue 21, I don't want to plan to have an all AoE team because blue requires you to not kill all of the minions as quickly. So maybe I will either choose team people appropriately or look at that. Or if I know that the purple boss is going to be stage 21, are they the purple boss right now? Orcs. So Orc is purple boss. So you know that, hey, you know what? If I make a high poison team with a lot of buffs and debuffs on the team, maybe that's really good for Seer, because Seer will consume all of those buffs. There you go. Strategy figured out. Use Seer for Orcs 21, because Seer will consume all the buffs prior to the boss using their debuff swap ability, and you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Oh man. They nerf Seer, they buff Seer, they nerf Seer, but then they made it useful again. Magic moment. Alright, so for those of you who have Seer, congratulations, she has a use again. Dust her out of the vault, and she has a purpose. Okay, well, let's get to some gameplay footage. I'll put it up here. Hopefully you guys like the video and the style. Sorry it is super, super long. But yeah, some of my other videos were an hour and people still watch them. So who knows? I'll go to the pre-recorded stuff and we'll see you in the next one.